So we're kind of keeping the focus on the focus that the enemy is the enemy, and each of us are working together to try and improve this relationship and recover and heal from the problems that this addiction or bad habit or compulsion has caused. We are both willing to take responsibility for what we need to do, what's within our lane, what's within our control that we need to take responsibility for and take action on. And you guys are having these conversations, checking in, and we will talk about that later about how to check in better. But you guys are continuing these conversations consistently so that you can course correct. And if you're experimenting, trying things, it's going to kind of figure it out. One of the things that I think is also helpful here is to understand, again, the role of being a help meet. Now, in the scriptures, it talks about how Eve was created to be a help meet for Adam in Genesis, kind of talking about that idea. And sometimes we get in our heads that that means that a woman is subservient, that they're supposed to help us and guide us as men in anything that we think we need to do or want to do, or they need to follow our lead. And that is not the actual translation of that phrase. That it actually comes from two different things. Well, help and meet, right? And so one is to help, to provide support, strength, and aid, or and then the meet, like help meet, from like Old English, suitable, fitting, or corresponding to. And so kind of a good match, a good pair. That with this help meet is someone who can be provide that support, provide that strength, that aid, and be a good fit for. Right now, I don't think that's just the women need to be that for the men, but also the men for the women. And actually, in Hebrew, this idea of the help is kind of coming from a similar translation or description, kind of the similar word that is used for God or for Jesus Christ as a help to us, that they help us or they are helpers to us. And so I don't think if in that sense we would say that God is a help meet to us, that he is subservient to our wills and our desires. Actually, quite the opposite, that we should be more submissive and open and willing to counsel with and receive guidance from and to work with God, just like with our spouses, just like with our wives, just or our husbands, kind of that back and forth, that we, not with God, but with each other, are equal partners in this. So going back to the idea of like both of us have responsibilities, both of us need to be putting in this effort, but both of us can be that help meet for each other. I think one of the examples I have in my mind about how this works out is this idea of a watchtower, right? And kind of in scriptures, they talk about this, that there's this watchtower and it's up there and it sees kind of the people in the watchtower are able to kind of see at farther distance and able to kind of warn of problems or enemies that are coming in. Now, I see spouses who have this ability to discern and perceive problems before they come. They are able to see ahead of time. They see their spouse starting to kind of get off. They start to see their spouse doing some things that seem concerning or reckless or compulsive before they've even relapsed, right? Before they've done anything wrong, the spouse will start to see, hey, there's something here, right? Now, it is not the spouse's responsibility or their job to be watching over and being like a mother, be like, hey, I see what you're thinking there. But to be that voice on the watchtower, to see those red flags from an outside perspective and be able to give the warning, right? Just be able to say, hey, I am seeing some things that are concerning. Hey, I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I'm just saying, as you're acting in this way, it reminds me of when you've relapsed before. And I'm just going to put that out there, right? And so just being able to warn and say, hey, I'm seeing something, right? That's the beauty of having the two sets of eyes out there. Because sometimes, as the addict, they don't see or we don't see or haven't seen when we are getting off. We get so caught up in whatever, or they get so caught up in whatever that they miss the signals and signs. And so they start to kind of follow this cycle, the spiral down. And the word from an outside source, whether that be from a sponsor, whether that be from a friend or a parent or a spouse, that says, hey, red flag going up. I'm seeing some concerning things. and to be able to kind of voice that concern. Then the responsibility is still on the addict or the person with the problem to take action, to step out, to do something to break the cycle. But being that help and that support, being there emotionally to kind of guide through, or to kind of to be there to cheer on, and then the person with the problem can really shine and show up instead of trying to test them and be like, I'm seeing these. That seems more of the unbalanced hierarchy, right? Is the kind of this teacher being like, I'm going to put this test in front of you, or I'm going to see this test that's there and see how you do. I'm going to see if you're going to really step up. I'm going to see if you're really going to do it, right? That's not the mentality that needs to be taken here, because again, that breaks the hierarchy of putting you in this position where you feel like a parent or you feel like a teacher looking over and looking down at your partner, and when they mess up and when they fail, comes with, again, the judgment and the attacks of like, I knew this was going to happen, I could see it coming, and you didn't do what you needed to do. When instead of looking at it from that, like a testing them, but more of a looking across, of being like, hey, you got problems coming up, you better look out, watch out, take charge. And then if they choose not to take your advice, then there needs to be conversations, and that's again working through reconciliation and rebuilding trust. But to kind of be that help, that support of, hey, signing. And again, this is not just the partner of the person with the addiction, but for the person with the addiction. If you start seeing your partner struggling, start seeing them unwind, get anxious, shut down, to be able to reach out and say, hey, how can I be support here? Hey, how can I help you? How can I help you feel more safe? What can I do for you to give you support and to be a good match for you? How can I help you be happy and find joy? You know, sometimes there's nothing you're going to be able to do. You just have to be willing to listen, willing to sit in that discomfort, in that pain, in that sadness with them. And sometimes sit in that sadness that you have caused, that you have participated in, that you have hurt, to say, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm going to change, make those commitments. But listen. So both people, both of you are in these watchtowers. And if you can contract other people, again, therapists, sponsors, friends, and family to participate in this, then all sides can be covered. And when those warning flags go up, each party, each participant taking responsibility for what is theirs. The addict needs to take responsibility for the addiction and coping and responding and changing and breaking the cycles. The partner taking responsibility for their healing, their growth, the kind of their coping and adjusting and being open and willing to support, both people being willing to support each other. Learning how to be a help meet, a good match, a good partner, a good teammate, and relying on God to kind of show you how to do it. Giving those little prompts, giving those little kind of pushes, and then willing. Talk today about how you guys have felt like you have been working as a team, or this idea of if you feel like you've been a helpmeet, or how you can be a better helpmeet for each other while remaining in what you guys are responsible for, which each of you are responsible for, and learning how to recognize and better point out where the enemy is coming from, where these attacks are coming from, where the triggers are coming from, and then to be able to bolster up those defenses together so that you can feel more safe and loving in the relationship.